If I had a dollar for every terrible Brandon Ayuk take that I've seen over the last 24 hours, I'd be very, very rich right now. I'd probably be able to quit this job, just be up in a luxury suite watching the 49ers every weekend. And I'd be behind home plate at the game five between the Giants and the Dodgers tonight. But unfortunately, they don't pay me for reading terrible Brandon Ayuk takes. I just respond to them in YouTube videos. But gosh, it's gotten out of control. I think that social media has turned, especially in 49ers land, has turned into full hyperventilation mode with three straight losses. So why don't we just bring back some logic and take a look at this situation the way that it actually is? Here's the 49ers receiving production so far this season. It's terribly imbalanced. Deebo Samuel, 31 catches, 548 yards, second in the NFL only to Devontae Adams. After that, it falls off a cliff, especially if you consider the fact that George Kittle is currently on IR. So it goes from Deebo's 548 yards all the way down to Sanu at 97. And here's the man of the hour, Brandon Aiyuk, only 8 catches for 90 yards. Obviously, there's a problem. Obviously, the 49ers need more from Brandon Aiyuk, and they need way more balance in their pass game in general. But people on Twitter always like to over dramatize things. They always want to make a scapegoat. And so they're using this Ayuk situation to either point a finger at the second year receiver or more conveniently to just point a finger at Kyle Shanahan and say that he's, invent a conspiracy theory that somehow he's punishing a player who's giving over 200 plus snaps to by not designing plays or not throwing him the ball because of some covert reason that we don't know. But I don't even know. The takes are so bad and so out of touch with reality that I have to chime in here. Guys, football is not as dramatic behind the scenes as you want to make it. Men are playing a violent sport. I call it organized chaos a lot of the time. And it's tough for coaches, it's tough for players to carry success over and stay consistent from year to year, which is why you have surprising performances from teams and players every single season. And hell, it's tough to carry it over from week to week. That's why they call this a week to week league. The NFL, more than any other professional sport, I think, is unpredictable on every type of Sunday basis. So sometimes a simpler answer is the correct one. And I'll go through what the answer for Brandon Aiyuk is. First of all, Brandon Aiyuk has 221 snaps this season. Deebo Samuel is the second leading receiver in football, is 287. Considering the fact that Brandon Aiyuk was eased back into the rotation because of a hamstring injury late in the preseason that made Trent Sherfield, who's barely playing now at receiver, split some snaps with him in week one. Considering that, that's a lot of snaps for Brandon Aiyuk. So if he was in some kind of doghouse, which means that he did something wrong and Kyle Shanahan was trying to punish him, Brandon Aiyuk wouldn't be playing 200 plus snaps through the 49ers' first 5 games of the season. It's as simple as that. He has the second highest snap count of any 49ers receiver, and that's even through the fact that he didn't play that much in week one. Point 2, people aren't talking about this. Brandon Aiyuk did add some muscle this offseason, and I think that's significant in 2 regards. One, he wasn't just loafing through the offseason. There wasn't some kind of poor work ethic. He didn't show up not ready to play in 2021. He did actually add muscle, as the 49ers wanted him to. They wanted him to be more insulated to potentially return punts, and they thought that he'd be able to better handle the wear and tear of an NFL season a little bit stronger. So Aiyuk did come in stronger. I did think that was apparent early in training camp. However, there might be a downside to that as far as getting used to play at that slightly more muscular, heavier weight. If you look at the graph here, or the table that I had in my article that was posted today, this is the 49ers offensive efficiency breakdown so far. Look at NFL Next Gen Stats. They measure separation, average separation for a receiver in yards using their tracking data. Deebo Samuel, 3.5. Blue means above average, by the way. Even Mohamed Sanu at 3.3 within Shanahan's scheme. George Kittle, 3.7. Brandon Aiyuk down below average at 1.7 yards of separation this year. For comparison, Brandon Aiyuk during his rookie year back in 2020 was at 2.8 yards of average separation. So it's gone down over a yard. Now, is that a simplistic number without context? Of course it is. There's so many factors that could go into that, including the route tree that Kyle Shanahan calls and the defense that opposing teams are playing against Brandon Aiyuk. But it is an aggregate average, and it is noteworthy that Aiyuk is over a yard under last year's aggregate average separation. That coincides with the fact that he has added some muscle and maybe he hasn't been quite as spry as he was in 2020. The 49ers are probably looking to make sure that Aiyuk does reach that same level of spryness, because I can say for certain that of his catches this season, and there haven't been a lot of them, right? There have been 8 catches for Aiyuk this season. I think 7 of them have come in extremely tight windows. And let me emphasize that they've been impressive catches for Brandon Aiyuk. I mean, you saw that once outside from Trey Lance against Arizona on Sunday. That was a pinpoint ball, probably Trey Lance's best throw of the afternoon, but also just a great muscular catch from Brandon Aiyuk. And also, one that he probably doesn't make if he doesn't add the muscle that he did over the offseason. He was also very strong on the touchdown against the Packers from Jimmy Garoppolo. That was another play in traffic. There was a slant against the Packers earlier on where Aiyuk had a defender draped all over him and he made a great catch. And then, of course, he started to show that yak ability again on the 26-yarder on 2nd and long against Arizona, where he made a contested catch and then took off running and was elusive downfield for a big 49ers gain. So, all things considered, I think the added muscle has helped Brandon Aiyuk make some of those tighter contested catches the 49ers are throwing him. But we can't ignore the separation numbers, and the separation numbers for the 49ers have been down for Brandon Aiyuk so far this season. We're not sure why they're down right now fully. I mean, we could watch the film. We could see, obviously, the defenders have been draped all over him. We can speculate that Kyle Shanahan has not been calling games as well as he should be. I've criticized Kyle Shanahan for that, but we're only 5 games in, and the 49ers have had a lot of issues. And I have, more to say about that in a future key. This third key, or the third point that I have, is that Aiyuk is separating less this season. That goes hand in hand with number 2, or it might go. I don't know. But the truth is that he is separating less, and you could see it on the table upstairs. Number 4, Deebo Samuel is one of the NFL's best wideouts right now. Go back to here. Deebo Samuel, 31 catches, 548 yards. The yak that he's averaging above expectation per reception is number 2 in the NFL, 3.8. You can see Aiyuk is above average after his 26-yarder, but it's nowhere near Deebo Samuel territory. But the point here is that Deebo Samuel has been so good that naturally the 49ers are going to be force-feeding him the ball more, just because he's been dominant so far this season. I do think the 49ers badly need a counterbalance. And I think that counterbalance, the lightning to Deebo Samuel's thunder, has to be Brandon Aiyuk moving forward. You can't put too much strain on George Kittle. And Aiyuk does bring a unique skill set relative to Samuel and Kittle, both of whom plow over players. So I do think the 49ers need to ameliorate the balance situation, but it also, the truth is never black and white. The truth is that Deebo Samuel has been one of the NFL's best wideouts, and we need to recognize that as a factor behind the Aiyuk disappearance. Number 5, this is the one that contains the most nuance. The 49ers offense as a whole has been frustratingly inconsistent. I trace this back very, very clearly, I think, to losing Raheem Mostert in week 1. To me, for all the screaming and crying about Kyle Shanahan's play calling, this and that, I think Kyle Shanahan's biggest mistake was tethering so much of what the 49ers do to Raheem Mostert's speed. Schematically, the 49ers were reliant on Raheem Mostert. And it's also why they drafted and started Elijah Mitchell over Trey Sermon in week 1, because Elijah Mitchell brings a skill set that is more similar to Raheem Mostert as far as that pure burst and pure speed that can really allow the 49ers offense to unlock everything else. Without that outside zone burst, this 49ers offense crumbles. That's why you saw half one against the poor Green Bay defense. You had neither Mostert or Elijah Mitchell, and it got bad. Jimmy Garoppolo on offense, turned it around in the second half, but it was too little too late, especially since the defense didn't really come to play in those final 37 seconds against Aaron Rodgers. Anyway, the overarching offensive point is because of this lack of run game production as far as bursted outside zone, and the fact that Shanahan was so tethered schematically to it, it's led to a downstream effect of the 49ers offense being less than impressive, less than consistent, also frustratingly inconsistent, and not really balanced when it comes to the distribution to the wideouts. Deebo Samuel's been awesome, so he's stepped up and taken on the load. But I think that if you combine the fact with Brandon Aiyuk has not been getting as much separation, and you attribute it to the fact that this offense as a whole is sputtering, Kyle Shanahan as a whole is not calling his best plays, then you can understand why this problem might exist. Again, we try to, pinpoint blame on one thing. And I think that the 49ers will have to force feed Brandon Aiyuk a little bit to get him more comfortable in his new skin. I mean, anytime you add muscle at such a refined level of play like the NFL, that could either go really well or it could take some getting used to. And Brandon Aiyuk in the new body this season is going to have to get used to it. And the 49ers may have to force feed him some, they may have to use him like Deebo Samuel, give him a few pitches, give him some end arounds. We saw Aiyuk score on that last season. Maybe toss him a couple deep shots. Do what you need to do to get Brandon Aiyuk the football, and maybe that allows him to start separating more because he builds confidence on his other routes. I don't know what exactly the answer is. I'm sure the 49ers are grappling for it too because they want balance in their offense. But that leads me to number 6. Multiple things can be true at once. So, I mean, you don't have to cast Brandon Aiyuk into a doghouse because he, broke some rule that, no reports come out that he broke some rule. No, nobody knows anything about that. It's pure speculation. You don't have to, throw Kyle Shanahan under the bus and say, he doesn't know how to call plays anymore. He's punishing Brandon Aiyuk for something. He's letting his ego get in the way. Another second-year receiver flaming out for the 49ers. You could just look at the fact that Aiyuk has 221 snaps. If the 49ers were trying to punish him, he wouldn't be on the field this much. You could look at the fact that he's added muscle and he might be getting used to it. You could look at the fact that he's separating less this season. Tracking data is telling us that, and that might be related to the muscle. You could look at the fact that Deebo Samuel is one of the NFL's best wideouts, so he's deserved an increased role. And you could look at the fact that the 49ers offense as a whole has been frustratingly inconsistent. That goes back to Shanahan. That goes back to the quarterbacks. And I think originally it goes back to that running game without Raheem Mostert and Elijah Mitchell. Moving forward, the 49ers should heal up in the backfield, not with Mostert, who just had surgery, but I think Elijah Mitchell is going to be back and healthy in fuller capacity. He was still hurting against Arizona, so the 49ers might have been load managing him. But if he's back and the 49ers lick their wounds over the bye week, that run game, theoretically, should be more productive. And if that run game's more productive, the pass game, with Jimmy Garoppolo back, Trey Lance mixing in, should be able to sprinkle the football in more generously and in a more equitable way to all of the 49ers receivers. And with Deebo Samuel getting more attention from defenses with his 548 yards so far, I think that naturally should open up a window for Brandon Aiyuk, who should be more and more comfortable with that at muscle as the season moves on. Guys, this is how sports work. Everybody wants to make it dramatic. These are men playing football. It's hard to carry success over from year to year. Complications arise, bodies change, defenses adapt in the NFL. And Brandon Aiyuk is a sophomore this year. The sophomore slump is not a conspiracy theory. There are not conspiracy theories driving it. It's a real thing because of real factors. And as easy as it would be for me to sit here and really be a homer, I'd be a homer if I said one thing. Oh, Brandon Aiyuk fixes this. He's in the doghouse. They just flip a switch and he's ready to go. I'm going to tell it to you the hard way. And the hard way is that there are multiple factors here, and this is a tricky problem that the 49ers have to address. And that may be hard for some people to hear, but I don't care. Football is a complicated sport. The 49ers are fighting for their lives right now in 2-3. And the one way they're going to turn this around, or one of the ways they're going to turn this around, especially as far as passing offense goes, is for Brandon Aiyuk to emerge as a counter threat to Deebo Samuel. So the answer is not always easy, but the 49ers need to find it. So stop with the whole drama about Brandon Aiyuk and let's analyze football in a smart way. If the 49ers can get this done, I think the offense looks a lot better moving forward. Again, I think it all traces back to the run game. Anyway, subscribe to the YouTube channel. We'll talk to you all soon. Take care.